立法會
The President. Good morning, members, government officials. Question 1, Ms. Joephy CHAN. Thank you, President. Regarding the latest implementation progress of the public healthcare fees and charges reform implemented by the Hospital Authority (HA) early this year, will the government inform this council? 1. Given that patients currently can submit medical fee waiver applications at designated service units only during office hours, and that the arrangement for self-service waiver applications via the electronic platform will not be introduced until the second quarter of this year at the earliest. Whether the government knows if HA has any measures in place to facilitate the public submission of waiver applications and enhance the processing efficiency before the introduction of the arrangement. 2. Since the commencement of accepting medical fee waiver applications, of the total number of briefing sessions or publicity activities organized by the government in various districts to inform the public about the relevant waiver arrangements, whether it has plans to regularly publish data on the effectiveness of public healthcare fees and charges reform, such as changes in public healthcare utilization rates and the success rate of fee waiver applications, if so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that, and 3. To dovetail with the implementation of the fees and charges reform and to reduce the service demand for accident and emergency departments, A&E departments at night, whether the government has completed planning for strengthening evening consultation services, including their geographical location, service scope, consultation hours, and fees and charges, if so, the details, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Health. President, in consultation with the Hospital Authority, HA, the reply to a question raised by Ms. Joephy CHAN is as follows. The fees and charges reform for public health care aims to enhance healthcare protection for poor, acute, serious, critical patients. The various measures under the reform have been successfully implemented since 1st January 2026, among which the HA has expanded the medical fee waiver mechanism for poor patients. The number of eligible low-income individuals who could potentially benefit is estimated to increase significantly from about 900,000 before the reform to about 2 million after the reform, meaning more than 1 out of 4 citizens are entitled to fee waivers, with most of them entitled to full waivers, accounting for about 90%. While enhancing protection for poor patients, the HA is obliged to conduct financial assessment for fee waiver applications to prevent abuse. Up till now, the HA has approved over 210,000 fee waiver applications, which is 15 times the annual number of around 14,000 persons before the reform. To this end, the HA has deployed designated teams across the various hospital clusters to process applications and established the conditional waiver mechanism under which the applications are approved and subsequently reviewed. Even during the peak period, when over 5,900 applications were received daily, with the New Territories East cluster receiving as many as 1,800 applications in a single day. The majority of applications were approved within the same day. Currently, on average, around 82% of applications are approved on the same day, with some hospital clusters reaching over 90%, exemplifying the very high efficiency of the handling process. To further facilitate patients and expedite assessment, the HA is progressively enhancing its electronic system. Currently, patients can already upload documents and check the progress and status of their applications, as well as applying for extension of waiver period through the HA Go Medical Fee Assistance app. Starting from the end of the second quarter, patients can submit applications and make appointments for applications through the platform. Furthermore, members of the public may also make use of the drop-in boxes at various designated service units to submit supplementary documents outside office hours. Since the announcement of the fees and charges reform in March last year, in addition to briefing the Legislative Council panel on health services, the Health Bureau HHB and the HA held district council briefing sessions and proactively met with different stakeholders to provide detailed explanations. Since accepting fee waiver applications on the 3rd of November last year up till mid-March this year, the HA has organized over 100 sessions of various activities such as briefings and workshops for DC members, patient groups, volunteers, etc. to disseminate relevant information to the community. The HA will continue to collaborate with members of the local community to organize activities in order to enhance public understanding of the various reform measures, including the fee waiver. The HHB and the HA have also been consistently providing the latest updates and data on the reform through channels such as press releases, media interviews, and replies to the Legislative Council, and will report on the implementation progress and effectiveness of the reform at the Legislative Council panel on health services in May. The reform has so far achieved remarkable results in terms of the usage of A&E services and the strengthening of patient protection. The A&E departments have been able to concentrate resources to serve critical and emergency patients, with the number of non-urgent and semi-urgent patients dropping about 20% compared to the same period last year. The efficiency of patients' care has also improved, with the proportion of urgent patients receiving treatment within 30 minutes rising from 79.9% in the same period last year to 88.3%. The number of patients approved for fee waiver have significantly increased by 15 times to over 210,000. The $10,000 annual spending cap and subsidies for innovative drugs and devices are also gradually showing effectiveness. The A&E services are open 24 hours a day with no appointments needed. They are positioned to provide life-saving care for patients with urgent illnesses or injuries, as well as casualties arising from major incidents. Non-urgent and semi-urgent patients are encouraged to consider public and private primary health care services. At present, public family medicine clinics serve grassroots citizens, particularly those from the underprivileged groups. The primary health care needs of most citizens are mainly met by the private community health care clinics. Regarding public primary health care services, 23 out of the 75 family medicine clinics under the HA currently operate with extended service hours, evening consultation. Taking into account the demand for evening outpatient services and having considered factors such as the population size in different districts, A&E waiting time, and the availability of private family doctor services, the HA will, starting from the second quarter this year, progressively increase a total of 25,000 evening consultation slots in two more North District, Taipo, Shatin, Shamshui-po, Kwai-ching, and Kwun Tong. In addition, North Kwai-chung Family Medicine Clinic also plans to regularize its current evening clinic arrangements on Wednesday and Thursday to Monday through Friday in 2026-27. The HA will continue to work with the Primary Healthcare Commission to review the service needs, particularly for the underprivileged groups, and gradually strengthen its evening outpatient service capacity by deploying resources in a targeted manner. As for private services, currently, 13 private hospitals in Hong Kong provide 24-hour outpatient services, with some clinics also providing evening or holiday outpatient services, including 1,000 Western and 1,000 Chinese medicine practitioners. To facilitate public access to and selection of suitable primary healthcare service providers, the government has established the Primary Care Directory as a web-based database. Citizens can also use the doctor search function on the eHealth app and website to check the list of doctors and details of clinics providing evening outpatient service. Thank you, President. Secretary, regarding the second part to your reply, you said that the HHB organized 1,000 sessions of activities instead of 100. 100 sections. Ms. Joephy CHAN. Thank you, President, for the clarification. The Secretary claimed that the application process is not complex. However, I've reached out to elderly applicants. The process is complicated. By digitalizing the application process, elderly patients don't have to go to the application service units. But the fee charges reform was implemented before the digitalization of the application process. I hope that the Bureau will implement the reform only after extending evening outpatient services. It is said that we are going to roll out the electronic application platforms in the second quarter of this year instead of the third quarter. I wonder if the Secretary has any data on how much manpower can be saved after we digitalize the application process. Thank you. The public fees and charges reform is to protect critical and urgent patients. Data shows that if we implement the reform earlier, more people will benefit. We have already seen results with the usage of A&E department. Previously, only 14,000 people were eligible for the waiver. Now, within a few months, over 210,000 people have benefited from the fee waiver. About 200,000 patients used to have to pay for their consultations fee. Now they can have their fee fully waived. Apart from being able to provide life-saving care for patients, with the reform and the fee waiver arrangements, more patients can enjoy a full waiver. You talked about an online application. Patients can upload now information and check the progress and status of their applications online. In the second quarter of this year, patients can submit applications and make appointments through the electronic platform. Secretary, can you respond directly to Ms. Chan's questions? Do you have any data? What kind of data are you referring to? Ms. Chan, please repeat your questions. I asked, after rolling out the electronic platform, how much manpower can be saved to. We have a dedicated team, and we adjust our manpower dynamically. As I said at the outset, we received daily 5,900 applications. Currently, we received about 3,200 applications per day. We will continue to monitor the demand. We have established a conditional waiver mechanism under which applications are approved and then subsequently reviewed. Patients with conditional waiver can submit their applications online. We don't have any way to estimate how much manpower can be saved, but we will make adjustment as early as possible. Mr. Chan Cho-kwon. Thank you, President. I have a very straightforward question. We increase the fees and charges to safeguard grassroots citizens. Do you have any data to map out where the patients have gone if they are not visiting the A&E department? After raising fees and charges, are the people, such as the middle-class people, who go for private clinics instead, will their livelihood pressure be increased? The government has been criticized for not supporting the middle class. The workload of the A&E departments has been relieved by the reform, but this has put great financial pressure on the middle class. Secretary, regarding Tier 4 and Tier 5 patients, these are semi-urgent and non-urgent patients. They may be suffering from cold or mild symptoms. They have many different options. As I said, the number of non-urgent and semi-urgent patients have dropped by nearly 20%. They can either visit the A&E department the other day. If they need urgent care, they can go for private medical practitioners. For grassroots citizens, they can go for public evening consultation services. Some of them can manage their own symptoms without going to the doctor. Mr. Chan just talked about middle-class patients. They actually benefit from the reform too. On the acute, serious, and critical patients, they enjoy full waiver of fees and charges. For serious patients with serious illness, they enjoy subsidy with a cap of $10,000. For middle-class patients, if they suffer from serious illness such as stroke or cancer, they only have to pay a maximum of $10,000. Currently, over 2,200 patients have benefited. The Legislative Council members sitting here will also benefit from such a policy. And we have extended the scope of subsidy to many more different types of drugs and innovative devices. I have an example. There was a patient who needed to undergo heart surgery. After the reform, he was able to get subsidy of $72,000. Mr. Chun Pui-kong. Thank you, President. After implementing the reform, the fees of specialist consultation services doubled. The fees for drugs has also increased by 7 times. Many patients need to take many different types of drugs. I wonder if the government have any statistics on the change in the number of patients attending specialist outpatient services. Will some elderly patients refuse to go for specialist consultation services to save money or lower their drug intake deliberately? Secretary. According to our statistics, in the first 2 months, for inpatient or specialist outpatient services, the patients for these two types of services have not been changed. As for specialist outpatient patients, they may get painkillers, eye drops, itch relieving drugs. They sometimes now collect fewer of such drugs from the public hospitals, a drop by about 20%. There are some advanced testing, say for example, immunoglobulin testing, there is a drop of 10% of such a demand. Mr. Kingsley Wong, thank you. Many elderly and citizens say that the application process was complicated and many of them have to go to the service units many times. There is a person who applied for a waiver for her elderly mother, and he was aware that the application process was complicated. That's why she went to the North District Hospital to obtain the application form. However, she was told that she cannot obtain the application form in advance, and they can only complete the application form on the date of the consultation. And they were unsuccessful in completing the application form, and the elderly patient had to visit the service units multiple times to submit the application. About 20%, that is 40,000 people who are not able to have their application approved within the same day. The government will roll out the online application very soon. I wonder if the government will complete the application process so that family members can make the applications on behalf of their elderly relatives. Secretary, the efficiency of handling process is high. As I said, within 2 months, we have processed about 10,000 applications. That's 15 times before the reform. And 80% of applications are approved on the same day, and we think that's very efficient. And we do have a conditional waiver mechanism. Even if the applicants are not able to submit all the supplementary documents, they can enjoy the waiver before their case are reviewed. They can receive the service from the public hospitals with fee waiver first before completing all the application process. When we assess the applications, we look at the background of the applicant, their asset level. People who are eligible for fee waivers, they are low-income individuals. Their asset is rather simple. As well, the time taken to vet each application depends on the asset of the patients or their families. Thank you. Mr. Alan Chan, please stand. Thank you, President. I have a question for the Secretary. Under the current mechanism, what is the validity period of the fee waiver? If the validity period is long, then the number of applications to be processed will become fewer and fewer. Mr. Chan, you can only put one question. Secretary, thank you. The validity period of the fee waiver is 18 months max. We understand that if we want to save on administrative fees, we can extend the validity period so that we process fewer applications. However, patients' assets level may change over time. We have, however, already extended the validity period from 12 months to 18 months. We are of the view that we need to monitor the changes in asset level of patients. When the validity period is expired, patients can declare that their assets have not changed and they can have their fee waiver extended. If not, they will have to file a new application.
LAM Wai-kong.
Question 2, Mr. Lam Wai-kong. Thank you, President. It has been reported that the problem of illegal workers has emerged in many industries in Hong Kong in recent months. Some illegal workers have been allegedly using forged ID or vocational qualification certificates, such as construction worker registration card, to conceal their identity. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, of the respective numbers of illegal workers arrested by the government during the law enforcement operations in each of the past 3 years, with a breakdown by the identity documents held by them, including a reconnaissance form known as the Going Out Pass, forged ID card, and exit entry permit for traveling to and from Hong Kong and Macau, commonly known as two-way exit permit, etc. 2. Of the number of employees arrested by the government in 2025 for hiring illegal workers, and the number of those who were prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced to imprisonment. How the government assesses the deterrent effect of existing penalties on employers who hire illegal workers. And 3. Given that some members of the construction industry have relayed that illegal workers have often engaged in work such as renovation and scaffold erection, whether the government has assessed the risk of illegal workers using forged certificates to engage in the industries, whether the Immigration Department, relevant certification bodies and other government departments have currently established a verification system to assist frontline officers in verifying the authenticity of the relevant supporting documents. Secretary for Security. President, the government is committed to combating illegal employment so as to protect jobs for local workforce. It's a serious offense to engage in illegal employment. Illegal workers, employers, as well as aiders, abettors of illegal employment will be liable to prosecution in accordance with the Immigration Ordinance. To further step up efforts in combating illegal employment, the Security Bureau established in September 2025 an interdepartmental task force against illegal employment to enhance interdepartmental coordination and combat illegal employment under a multi-pronged approach. On intelligence collection, the Immigration Department launched a dedicated hotline for reporting illegal workers in September 2025 and provided new reporting functions on WeChat and iSmart apps. To further facilitate the public in making reports, the reporting hotline has been simplified as 185 185 since the 23rd of March 2026. On enforcement, in the first 5 months after the task force has been set up from October 2025 to February 2026. Over 10,000 operations against illegal workers were conducted, with the monthly average increased by nearly 30% comparing to that of the first 3 quarters last year. During these operations, about 520 illegal workers and 200 employers or aiders and abettors were arrested. In consultation with the Development Bureau and Immigration Department, the reply to the question raised by Mr. Lam is as follows. 1. According to Immigration Department's record, a total of 4,050 illegal workers were arrested from 2023 to February this year, of which around 50%, and that's 1,991 persons, were visitors holding exit entry permit for traveling to and from Hong Kong and Macau. 1,213 non-ethnic Chinese persons on reconnaissance and issued with Form 8, or the so-called going out passes, were arrested for suspected in taking up illegal employment. Meanwhile, the Immigration Department seized 72 forged Hong Kong identity cards during anti-illegal workers operations. The breakdown of the arrested illegal workers by their immigration status is at annex of the paper. 2. The government amended the immigration ordinance in 2021 by increasing the penalty on employing prohibited employees. The maximum penalty had been significantly increased from the original fine of $350,000 and 3 years of imprisonment to a fine of $500,000 and 10 years of imprisonment. It's worthy to note that an employer of illegal workers was sentenced to 19 months of imprisonment in February 2024, reflecting the gravity of such offense. In 2025, the Immigration Department arrested 569 employers of illegal workers and prosecuted 179 employers. 127 employees were convicted in the same year, and the majority of them were sentenced to imprisonment, with terms ranging from 6 weeks to 6 months. We believe that the penalty for employing illegal workers in the prevailing legislation already has a considerable deterrent effect. The Immigration Department will continue to closely monitor the sentences imposed by courts and, if necessary, seek advice from the Department of Justice to consider whether to apply for a sentence review. 3. Under the prevailing legislation, any person who is convicted of making, possessing, or using false instruments is liable to a maximum penalty of 14 years of imprisonment. Any person who is convicted of using or possessing a forged ID card is liable to a maximum fine of $100,000 and 10 years imprisonment. In recent years, the Immigration Department has mounted multiple large-scale cross-boundary joint operations against illegal employment and successfully neutralized a number of cross-boundary forgery syndicates involving forged ID cards. In particular, the Immigration Department carried out a cross-boundary joint operation with the mainland counterpart from October 2025 to January 2026 and successfully smashed the cross-boundary forgery syndicate that recruited mainland residents to take up illegal employment in Hong Kong. 119 persons were arrested in both jurisdictions, and a large amount of equipment used in producing forged cards and ID cards was seized. While the Immigration Department did not find any forged vocational qualification certificates during the operation, the department has seized 2 forged mandatory basic safety training certificates, also called a green card, and 1 construction workers registration card in other anti-illegal workers operations since 2025. The scope of renovation projects can be extensive. Whether construction workers need to carry and present a valid registration card depends on whether the project involves the structure of a building. If the work involves building structure, it falls under the application of the Construction Workers Registration Ordinance. All individuals entering a construction site regulated by the said ordinance to carry out construction work must be registered in advance and carry and present their registration cards upon entering the site, which will be verified and authenticated by a card-reading device. However, private residential renovation work generally does not involve structural elements and is therefore not subject to the said ordinance, nor does it need to comply with the related requirements for worker registration and presentation of the cards. As for truss-out bamboo scaffolding that may be involved in private residential renovation work, workers are required to hold a relevant safety training certificate. The Construction Workers Registration Card issued by the Construction Industry Council not only features the holder's photo, but also contains an embedded electronic chip with the registration information of the holder. The registration card includes the registration number and a unique UR code. The Council's logo is printed with optically variable ink to enhance anti-counterfeiting capabilities. The safety training certificates issued by the Council are printed with a cert number and a laser anti-counterfeit label. If immigration officers have any suspicion about the documents seized, they will follow up seriously, including contacting the relevant issuing authorities of the documents concerned or government departments to verify the authenticity. Strict law enforcement actions will be taken against any persons possessing or using false instruments. The task force will continue to closely monitor the crime trend, formulate and adjust response strategies in a timely manner, and combat illegal employment in multiple key industries in a targeted manner so as to safeguard job opportunities for the locals. Mr. Lam Wai-kong. Thank you, President. I thank the administration for the reply. However, at the moment, I have received a lot of feedback from employees and labor unions that illegal workers have affected their jobs, especially in catering, construction, and transportation sectors. I've received a lot of complaints. Now, the dedicated hotline for reporting illegal workers has been set up. The Interdepartmental Task Force Against Illegal Employment, led by the Security Bureau, has also been set up as well. Now, how does the government assess the effectiveness of these measures and whether there will be more measures to combat illegal employment? Secretary. Thank you, President. After we have set up the dedicated hotline and the Interdepartmental Task Force, we have received 1,400 reports. And from these reports, we arrested some 100 people, including 87 illegal workers, as well as 35 employers of illegal workers and aiders and abettors. As for the overall strategy to combat illegal employment, the first strategy includes intelligence gathering. That includes the dedicated hotline I mentioned. We also conduct cyber patrols. We have officers checking whether such job ads would be offered online through social media platforms like Xiaohongshu to mainland residents. We also liaise very closely with property management companies for their officers to report to us any suspicious persons involved in renovation projects. Now, law enforcement actions are, of course, very important. We take targeted operations in relation to combating illegal employment in private residential estates and renovation projects. We also have the so-called Silver Wing operation targeting imported laborers taking up illegal employment. We also take forward legislative reforms. For example, in 2021, we amended the ordinance and increased the penalty for employers of illegal workers. And we also work with different departments, the mainland authorities, and we also step up publicity and public education. Mr. Lothair Lam. Thank you, President. I'm reading from point 1 of the reply. 1,213 non-ethnic Chinese persons on reconnaissance and issued with Form 8 were arrested for suspected illegal employment. Now, that's so-called the non-refoulement claimants, right? Or the torture claimants. Now, can you tell us the trend, whether it's on the rise or otherwise, and what will happen to them after the Immigration Department has made the arrests? Secretary. Yes, in 2023, 628 non-ethnic Chinese persons were arrested. In 2024, 444 arrested. And in 2025, 396 persons. So several hundred persons belonging to this category are arrested every year. So for non-refoulement claimants and torture claimants taking up illegal employment, we are very concerned about the situation. And as I explained just now, we work on, say, gathering intelligence and taking law enforcement action. For the non-refoulement claimants and the non-ethnic Chinese persons, we notice that they tend to take up work in certain trades, such as working as delivery workers. So we do mount special operations targeting illegal employment in this regard. We also work with the food delivery platforms. we want them to make sure that at the time of registration, they will verify the status of the prospective employees before allowing them to take up the jobs. They also use technology to prevent abuse of the system so that work will not be taken up by illegal workers. Mr. Charles Chung, President, according to the Secretary's reply after the Interdepartmental Task Force was set up last year, the operations against illegal employment increased by 30%. And according to the annual report in 2025 of the Immigration Department, the number of illegal employment operations increased up to 20,000 times. Despite these operations, there is still this prevailing perception that illegal employment is serious, such as in the renovation sector and the cleaning sector. There are job ads on social media recruiting illegal workers. Now there were 28 undercover operations last year. That's just a very small number comparing to the overall law enforcement actions. In order to enhance efficiency, will there be more undercover operations? Secretary. President, as for the number of illegal workers arrested, 2023 there were 1,304, 2024 1,268, and 2025 1,264. So this is a rather stable trend. There has not been any surge in number. However, we notice that for some particular jobs, they tend to be exploited by illegal workers. There are, for example, job ads on Xiaohongshu recruiting mainland residents to take up jobs such as home cleaning and being photographers here. Now, we do believe that undercover operations would yield better results, but it doesn't mean that undercover operations work in every situation. For example, for renovation workers, these workers may have come on the strength of a tourist endorsement of the documents from the mainland. They only take up the job in Hong Kong after they've arrived. So that may not be the most effective way. But when circumstances are appropriate, we will take more undercover operations. Mr. Dominic Lee. President, the Secretary just explained when sting operations will be carried out, and you also step up cyber patrols. Now, on Xiaohongshu, you'll find a lot of job ads for illegal workers to come here. In fact, if you read the posts on Xiaohongshu, they don't specify the details. For example, for assembling furniture, ordered from Taobao, or home cleaning or makeup artists providing service in Hong Kong. These job ads do not have details. So what criteria will you adopt in mounting sting operations? That is when you will decide that this post is suspicious and hence operation should be taken. Well, there are different stages before deciding whether undercovers should be deployed, because if undercover agents are deployed, we need to go through a lot of steps. Now, we need to first get a better understanding of the job ads online. And in fact, we were able to arrest 28 persons from undercover operations, but we have done far more than that. Apart from sting operations, in terms of these social media posts, we liaise with mainland authorities and see whether these posts can be taken off the shelf, so to speak, so that it will be more effective just to take down posts from the social media platform than to make arrests later. Mr. Yeoming. Thank you, President. In the past few months, the administration has stepped up the efforts in combating illegal employment. I acknowledge the work, but after all, illegal employment remains a problem in Hong Kong. We also have the so-called white plate vehicles that provides cross-boundary transportation service, and this is reported in the media. Now, it's really rampant. We have people on business visa driving these white plate cars as drivers. And there are also a lot of job ads on Xiaohongshu they tout for businesses. I want to ask whether there is any cooperation mechanism. Is there a way for these posts on either overseas social media platforms or mainland ones to be taken down as quickly as possible to prevent them from touting for business, and that these posts can be deleted immediately? Secretary, President, in relation to the so-called white plate vehicles, and that is taking passengers illegally for reward, we mounted 118 operations and arrested 8 illegal workers. 3 persons have admitted their guilt and they've been sent to prison with a term ranging from 2 weeks to 2 months. Apart from illegal workers, we also arrested 11 persons suspected of conspiring in the arrangement. Now, apart from sting operations, as I mentioned, we also patrol the commonly used social media platforms in the mainland, and we work with the relevant law enforcement agencies in the mainland so that we can discuss with the social media platforms and urge them to take down posts suspected of recruiting illegal workers to come to Hong Kong. In fact, it's quite effective. Very swiftly, these posts will be taken down. Mr. Aaron Bok. Thank you, President. According to the Immigration Department's records, in recent years, illegal workers have mostly taken up jobs in the catering industry, as well as working as restaurant workers, kitchen and workers and cleaners. We have some talent admission schemes rolled out by the government, but unscrupulous intermediaries are involved. My question for the government is, apart from deterring employers of illegal workers, are there sufficient measures to target intermediaries, and are they effective enough? Secretary, thank you, President. Apart from illegal workers, we also place emphasis on employers of illegal workers as well as aiders and abettors. In 2021, we noticed the situation regarding employers, and that is why we raised the penalty from $350,000 and 3 years of imprisonment to $500,000 and 10 years of imprisonment. Now, for aiders and abettors, of course, we also target them as they help in the process. So we'll definitely take a dedicated approach in combating these or targeting these groups. Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, President. We acknowledge the work of the Security Bureau to combat illegal employment. In 2021, the law was amended to raise the penalties. Last September, the Interdepartmental Task Force Against Illegal Employment was also set up, and as mentioned, there are different there are illegal workers in different industries and trades. In fact, the tourism sector has told me that some tour guides are in fact illegal workers in Hong Kong. So my question is whether regular law enforcement operations will be carried out in collaboration with the Tourism Commission so as to make a deterrence effect. President, we noticed the so-called syndicates of illegal employment. We are aware of the situation, and we don't just work with the tourism authority. We also work with the tourism sector. We liaise with them to get an understanding, and then we decide on the operation in the next step and approaches to gathering intelligence. And definitely, we will go after illegal activities.
Question 3, Mr. Dominic Lee. Thank you, President. There are views that the current arrangements under the mandatory building inspection scheme, which focuses on implementing major maintenance works, may not fully address the actual needs of housing estates where building conditions are still good. In this connection, will the government inform this council first whether it will revise the building score system for target buildings under the MBIS, to take into account factors such as routine maintenance records, whether a maintenance fund of a reasonable scale has been set up, and the past performance of property management companies or PMCs, so that structurally sound buildings with maintenance records in order may postpone mandatory building inspections or implement ongoing inspection plans instead of major maintenance works under safe circumstances? If so, of the details and timetable, if not, the reasons for that. Second, of the respective number of cases received and approved, and for which the works have been completed under the various funding schemes, including the Integrated Building Rehabilitation Assistance Scheme implemented by the government to assist property owners in taking forward the major maintenance records projects in each of the past 5 years. And third, as there are views that given the increasingly important role of PMCs in helping to supervise building maintenance works, apart from continuously applying the code of conduct issued by the Property Management Services Authority, whether the government will enact legislation to specify the statutory responsibilities of the PMCs for mandatory building inspections and major maintenance works, including assisting in managing and monitoring the tendering procedures and enhancing the transparency of project information, with a view to avoiding unreasonable costs or unclear accounts. If so, of the details and the specific directions, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Development. President, it is the primary responsibility of homeowners to maintain their property. Under a two-pronged strategy, the government encourages and supports property owners to maintain and repair their properties. And this includes teaming up with the Urban Renewal Authority to provide financial and technical support for flat owners in need by assisting them with inspection and repair works. At the same time, when rundown buildings pose a public safety record, the government intervenes proactively. Having consulted relevant bureaus and departments, I would like to respond to the various parts of the question from Mr. Dominic Lee as follows. So, part 1. Under the Mandatory Building Inspection Scheme, or MBIS, when a private building reaches 30 years of age or above, the Buildings Department, or BD, may, in accordance with the Buildings Ordinance Cap 123 of the laws of Hong Kong, issue an MBIS notice to the buildings in need. That requires the owners to appoint a registered inspector to carry out prescribed inspections and, where necessary, prescribed repair works based on the result of the inspection. I want to stress that the legislation does not mandate prescribed inspections for all private buildings that have reached 30 years of age. Since the MBIS was implemented in 2012, the BD has issued MBIS notices to roughly 9,000 buildings over time. About 70% of these buildings were already 50 years of age or even older. In fact, the BD adopts a risk-based approach in accordance with the building score system in choosing the targets for these MBIS notices. This scoring system was formulated after a consultation with stakeholders such as district councillors. So this scoring system means that 70% of the score will be based on the building condition, such as whether there were emergency reports of building defects, whether there were outstanding investigation or repair orders, or whether the building was rated as being in chronic disrepair. The full mark under the scoring system is 100 marks. Now, there's 10% that is about whether this building is a 3-nil building. Another 10% is about the building age. The remaining 10% is about whether there's cantilevered structure in the building, which will lead to collapse or structural failure due to compromised load-bearing capacity. Mr. Dominic Lee brought up buildings that have engaged property management companies or PMCs or even established maintenance funds. We believe these buildings are generally in better shape and they are better managed. These buildings also tend to have fewer defects in general terms, and they're less likely to receive investigation or repair orders. So under the current building score system that I mentioned, these buildings with building management and in better shape are less likely to receive MBIS notices. Now I turn to part 2 of the question. Since 2018, the government has committed a total of $19 billion to a number of building rehabilitation schemes in partnership with the Urban Renewal Authority. These schemes include Operation Building Bright 2.0, the Fire Safety Improvement Works Subsidy Scheme, the Lift Modernization Subsidy Scheme, the Building Maintenance Grant Scheme for needy owners, and the Building Drainage System Repair Subsidy Scheme. The figures on these subsidy schemes in terms of approval and completion can be found in the annex. At the budget that was just delivered, the government also announced a full review of Operation Building Bright. That work will draw on past experience to formulate a new subsidy scheme. For that purpose, the government has earmarked $3 billion. Early next year, we will complete the review and then finalize the details of the new subsidy scheme. At that point, we will also consult the Legislative Council. Part 3 of the question. According to the Home and Youth Affairs Bureau, as a result of the commencement of the new procurement requirements stipulated under the Building Management Ordinance in July last year, the Property Management Services Authority, or PMSA, has updated the Code of Conduct on carrying out procurement for clients and prevention of bid rigging and the related best practice guide. Under the Property Management Services Ordinance, these updates assist PMCs in handling procurement in a professional and effective manner. If the PMSA has reasonable grounds for suspecting that a licensee has failed to comply with the code, it may launch an investigation. Upon completion of the investigation, and if a disciplinary offense is substantiated, the PMSA may conduct a hearing and impose penalties according to the PMSO, including verbal warnings or written reprimands, fines, imposing or varying a condition of the license, temporarily suspending the license, or revoking the license. As part of the work in deepening the reform of building management, the HYAB is taking forward the next phase of the review and amendment of the BMO. The 5 preliminary amendment directions include raising the quorum and voting in-person thresholds for meetings concerning large-scale maintenance works and high-value procurement, further improving the mechanism of declaration of interests by requiring the works consultants to declare the relationships with the contractors, thereby enhancing the transparency of the procurement process. Following the approach taken in the previous BMO amendment, the PMSA will also update the related codes of conduct to enable licensed PMCs to assist owners' cooperation and owners in fulfilling their building management responsibilities more effectively. Thank you, President. Mr. Dominic Lee. Thank you, President. Many from flats have told us that the moment they receive the notice from the buildings department, they go to a registered inspector for the inspection, and then the results come back. A maintenance project is almost always recommended. That inspector is not appointed by the government. So owners suspect that these inspectors have an incentive to arrange maintenance projects. Wouldn't it be better if these inspectors are sent by the government instead? Secretary, I believe Mr. Dominic Lee mentioned the situation that can be addressed by the enhanced version of Smart Tender that will come out soon. As I said previously, at Electrical, we are reviewing Smart Tender. In the future, we would like the Urban Renewal Authority to vet the tenders received and also assist in the tendering process as a whole. So the URA will also help out in finding the inspectors. So the URA will help out with tendering. We're also looking at something else. For these registered inspectors, once they put together a report and they recommend maintenance, these inspectors do not just oversee everything. At a different stage, we will also go through the URA for a separate tendering exercise. So that's to prevent the registered inspector from trying to get more business for themselves by recommending unnecessary repairs. For details of this enhanced version of this smart tender system, we're talking to the URA about this. in May or so, we hope we will be able to brief the relevant panel at LegCo. Mr. Lau Kar-kong. Thank you, President. At the public hearing of the Independent Committee for the Fire at Wangfuk Court, the findings are cited elsewhere. Some say there's big rigging and other forms of anti-competitive behavior involving the contractors for Wangfuk Court. So will the authorities consider consolidating the data and assessing the tendering involving multiple contractors? Will we look at the sources of funding? Will we identify the suspicious projects? Will we generate alerts to enhance transparency in tendering so that we can lower the costs associated with maintenance for property owners? Secretary. The most straightforward answer is that we're looking at an enhanced version of smart tender. For homeowners taking part in smart tender, we are looking to strengthen the role of the URA so that the URA will help out in vetting the tenders. We also want to have a more rigorous pre-qualified list. So for the entire work involving coming up with the pre-qualified list and conducting the background screening and checks on the track records of contractors, and also the vetting of tenders, artificial intelligence will be something we will have to introduce so that we can look at all the data. And we're working on the details. Mr. Eric Kim. Thank you, President. Owners of old buildings lack the professional expertise when they look at the prices in the tender documents, and when they look at the documents, they're helpless and they worry about bid rigging. Will the government commit more resources and get the URA to appoint independent quantity surveyors so that owners can receive a report on standard prices so that owners get something to fall back on? Secretary. Under the existing practice, smart tender is already in place. For building owners or property owners currently taking part in smart tender, the URA already provides what they see as an estimated cost for these owners as a third party. But at this point, the URA does not take part in the vetting of tenders. The URA provides the analysis. So the URA currently looks at the method adopted by the consultant without taking part in the vetting. But we want to offer better assistance for homeowners. In the future enhanced version of smart tender, building owners will turn to the URA for tendering and the vetting of tenders. The URA will play a much bigger role in determining what are reasonable costs. So for buildings obtaining government funding, we may require these buildings to choose from among the recommended contractors proposed by the URA. And we're working on the details of such plans. Mr. Chen Pok-chi. Thank you, President. My question for the authorities is this. Will there be clear guidelines such that for building maintenance projects of a certain scale or involving a certain amount, we will mandate the hiring of government-appointed inspectors to ensure work safety and the quality of the works? Secretary. We want to offer better support for homeowners in arranging building maintenance projects. As I said, there will be an enhanced version of smart tender. In project supervision, we also have a proposal, and we are working on this plan, and that is amending the buildings ordinance The plan is that for future major maintenance projects, those projects will become Class 1 minor works. And that represents an upgrade. For Class 1 minor works, the owners will have to hire an independent professional as a supervisor of the contractors performing the repairs. That proposal responds to the idea floated by Mr. Chan. This involves amendments to the Buildings Ordinance. For this amendment, we will submit the draft amendments to the Legislative Council in the second half of this year. Mr. Yang. We helped building owners with handling their MBIS notices. We got complicated cases. Some wanted to take action, but they lacked the capability. For others, it was the other way around. And that led to tensions. When we handled these cases, the government is helpful. So there will be an enhanced version of this smart tender scheme that helps for owners who want to do it. But there's an alternative, and that is the government can offer default works. But this is complicated. You have to go to the court and you have to secure a conviction and then fines are imposed, and only then you can provide the default works. So can we draw on the practice for fire safety works where you have default works so that you don't have to wait till people are taken to court and you don't have to wait till a court to determine that someone cannot do anything before you can step in? Secretary. There's a funding scheme under Operation Building Bright. We can look at the figures from that scheme. Now, buildings that can expect funding number 3,800 or so. 1,760 or so from such buildings, roughly half of them already have their works performed by the buildings department. But I get Mr. Yang's point. Some building owners lack the means, so they would like to see the default work mechanism kick in sooner. The buildings department has stepped up their work on this front. In recent years, we got reports of concrete spalling. So when it comes to the external walls, the BD has performed more default works. So in the future, we would like to see faster decision making so that the default works can kick in sooner. But some such works are already performed. Mr. Andrew Yang, I support the government's effort to continuously enhance building safety and governance. The mainland is ahead of us in this area. So they have an initiative in the mainland involving digital twins. They use sensors and AI-based tools. They look at the utilities. They look at building structures. They offer all-round surveillance. The Shanghai Construction Technology Institute applied the technology to building safety and urban operation. So you have quantifiable and measurable indicators. Will we adopt a similar model, meaning this Urban Lifeline initiative to help us to ensure building safety? Will we adopt digital twins, AI-based image analytics, and other technology so that we can keep track of works progress in real time and information on building materials? Can we adopt such technology across departments so that we can build faster and better? Secretary. Mr. Yao brought up the Internet of Things and a shared platform, allowing multiple departments to keep track of work's progress. Our focus is on public works projects because those projects do involve multiple departments. But when it comes to the private buildings, new projects and maintenance projects, We do not have the system in place for those projects yet, but the member made a great point. Technology is all the rage these days. We want to help homeowners and developers to get the work done sooner. We also want to move faster. So we will draw on our experience with public works experience, and then we will find a way to apply the experience to private projects. Mr. Bill Tang. Thank you. I want to draw something to the Secretary's attention, and I also want to put a question to the Secretary. So many things have happened, and we are aware of legislative amendments in the pipeline. Some owners' corporations have received notices, so they hired works consultants for investigation and for preparatory works. The tendering is about to start for them. So these owners wonder, do they have to wait for the amended version of CAP 123 and CAP 344 and then they go ahead with tendering, or can they go ahead with their maintenance projects with the expectation that the government will provide support? Secretary. For all building maintenance projects, owners who feel ready can follow their current plan and leverage the existing government subsidy, and they can go ahead. Meanwhile, we have also received feedback from some other owners that they want to wait till the rollout of the enhanced smart tender platform. They want to wait for the legislative amendments. For these owners looking to wait, now we have told the buildings department that when there are notices that are about to expire, the BD should refrain from urging those owners to arrange repairs. So owners will not have to rush to get the works done. So we leave this as an option to the building owners. They can wait.
Question 4. Mr. Jonathan LEUNG. Thank you, President. There are views that over the years, the level of the statutory minimum wage, or SMW for short, has been progressively raised from the initial $28 per hour to the current $42.10 per hour. The ripple effect has continuously driven up the manpower costs of local enterprises and led to price increases. It has also prompted more members of the public to head north for spending, thus straining businesses, particularly the F&B sector. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it has compiled statistics on the cumulative increases in the average remuneration levels and the overall operating costs of major industries, including the F&B sector, since the implementation of SMW in 2011, together with a breakdown by industry. 2, as the reviews are following the change to an annual review of SMW, remuneration levels will rise at a faster pace and further undermine the overall competitiveness of local enterprises. Of the specific measures put in place by the government to help enterprises, especially the catering industry, to reduce their manpower and overall costs. And 3, given that the government has set up dedicated development funds to promote the sustained development of various industries, whether the authorities will consider setting up a catering industry development fund to specifically support the sustained development of the catering industries. If so, all the details, if not the reasons for that. Secretary for Labor and Welfare. Thank you, President. The statutory minimum wage, or SMW for short, regime has been implemented since May 2011. It was a consensus between employers and employees after years of extensive discussions. SMW provides a wage floor to forestall excessively low wages and safeguard the employment earnings of grassroots employees while sustaining Hong Kong's economic growth and competitiveness and minimizing the loss of low-paid jobs. Established under the Minimum Wage Ordinance, the Minimum Wage Commission, or MWC for short, has the main function to report to the Chief Executive in Council its recommendation about the SMW rate. From 2011 to 2025, the MWC reviewed the SMW rate once every 2 years. MWC conducted the reviews by an evidence-based approach, taking into account a host of factors including 1. An array of indicators of general economic conditions, labor market conditions, competitiveness and social inclusion. 2. The views from members of the public and stakeholders. 3. Other relevant considerations. And 4. Impact assessment to ensure its recommendations were in line with the policy objectives of SMW. In 2023, MWC completed the study on enhancing the review mechanism of SMW and recommended adopting a formula for implementing the new annual review mechanism of SMW. The recommendation was accepted by EXCO in April 2024. Since the rollout of SMW, the employment earnings of grassroots employees have improved. On the whole, the objectives of the SMW regime have been met. In consultation with relevant bureaus, the reply to the question raised by members is as follows. 1. According to the annual earnings and hours survey conducted by the Census and Statistics Department (CNSD), the overall median monthly wage for employees in 2025 went up by approximately 65.5% against 2011. Statistics on the median monthly wage of employees by industry are settled in NS1. According to the annual survey of economic activities conducted by the CNSD, the comparison between the total expenses of enterprises in 2011 and 2024 is settled in Annex 2. Part 2. The MWC has completed the review on the SMW rate by adopting the formula under the annual review mechanism. The formula, comprising the 2 indicators of inflation and the economic growth factor, ensures that the rate of SMW adjustment is not lower than inflation and enables grassroots employees and employers to jointly benefit from economic growth when the Hong Kong economy fares well. The formula is in line with the policy objectives of SMW. Besides, it enhances the transparency and predictability of SMW reviews, minimizes controversies, and is conducive to fostering harmonious labor relations. EXCO accepted the recommendation of MWC on the 10th of February this year. Subject to the approval of the Council, the SMW rate will be raised from its current level of $42.10 per hour to $43.10 on the 1st of May, representing an increase of 2.4%. In fact, manpower is only a part of business operations, and manpower costs are subject to various factors such as market supply and demand, technology application, etc. The MWC assessed that the overall impacts on the new SMW rate on costs of enterprises, jobless rate, and inflation are relatively modest. MWC estimated that for all sectors combined, the additional wage bills due to the SMW upgrading, including knock-on effect on pay hierarchies, would be about 0.01% to 0.03% of the total wage bills, about $110 million to $260 million. Regarding the number of employees, MWC estimated that the total number of employees earning hourly wages lower than the new SMW rate would be around 19,000 to 39,000, about 1% of all employees in Hong Kong. The government has been committed to supporting local enterprises. The CE's policy address last year introduced different support measures to ease pressure on business, including various concessions of fees and charges such as water and sewage charges for non-domestic accounts, trade affluent surcharge, and other license fees. In respect of the F&B sector, the government has been striving to streamline food business licensing regime by removing barriers and lowering compliance costs for the trade without compromising hygiene and food safety. For instance, we have introduced a composite permit that covers multiple restricted food items to avoid separate applications and fees for each item. The government has also tabled legislative amendment proposals into the Council for relaxing the restriction and allowing restaurant operators to apply for dog access to food premises, thereby facilitating dog owners to eat out and creating new business opportunities for the F&B sector. Furthermore, the Business Facilitation Advisory Committee and its food business-related task force and business liaison groups will also continue to provide platforms for the government and the business sector, including the catering industry, to offer advice on possible measures to enhance regulatory efficiency and business friendliness. Part 3. The sustainable development of the catering industry involves different factors, such as operation model and financing, application of technology, talent training, and market development. The government has rolled out various programs and funds for SMEs for which food business operators may apply to meet their development needs, such as the Digital Transformation Support Pilot Program may provide subsidies for applying digital solutions to enhance operational efficiency, and the SME Financing Guarantee Scheme may provide loan guarantee. The Employees Returning Board and the Continuing Education Fund also provide or subsidize relevant training to support the sustainable development of the F&B sector. The government will closely monitor the rollout of the new annual review mechanism of SMW and conduct a review 5 to 10 years after its launch to ensure that the SMW regime meets the policy objectives and supports Hong Kong's social harmony and economic development needs. Thank you, President. Mr. Jonathan LEUNG. Thank you, President. There is a strange phenomenon in Hong Kong. Manpower costs are on the rise, but a lot of businesses in the F&B sector find that it is difficult to engage enough workers. We have relevant policy schemes in Hong Kong, but then the sector still finds it difficult to employ workers, such as the eateries at the Hong Kong International Airport. They cannot take on enough workers, and this would definitely affect the international reputation of Hong Kong. So how can the government help the industry in this regard? Secretary, thank you. The government attaches importance to the business operation in Hong Kong. The Labor Department provides job matching services. Members of the public can use these services to land a job. Regarding the needs in the labor sector, we have 3 different sector-specific schemes and an enhanced ESLS. There is one prerequisite, that is, we need to ensure priorities are given to local workers first. As long as we operate under the overarching principle, if businesses still find it difficult to engage sufficient workers, they can import sufficient imported workers on the back of these policies. Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. Thank you, President. I'd like to provide some statistics. Just now, the Secretary said that only 20,000 to 24,000 people would benefit if the statutory minimum wage will go up by $1. And this number of people still only represents 1% of the total population of Hong Kong. And the total wage bills, the knock-on effect on pay hierarchies would be about 0.01% to 0.03%. So I have a question for the Secretary. I'd like to know, going forward, will the government provide apprenticeship schemes in the F&B sector, and will the government extend different schemes such as the re-employment subsidy pilot scheme, as well as other employment schemes targeting elderly people in Hong Kong? This will provide assistance to the young in Hong Kong. Secretary, thank you, Mr. Lee, for his recommendations. As for the existing schemes, there is no limitations in relation to which sector. In other words, all these schemes are applicable to the F&B sector through the ERB and the Continuing Education Fund. Assistance can be provided to the F&B sector. This sector can take on more new blood, and this will further help with the development of the F&B sector in Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Bill Tang. Just now, members asked questions about the possible impact of statutory minimum wage on business operations. Comparing with other jurisdictions, the growth in the SMW in Hong Kong is too modest. We're even lagging behind other jurisdictions, from $28 to $42, an increase of about 50% for Taiwan, 59% for Shenzhen, from 2011 to 2025, an increase of 90% for South Korea, an increase of 132%. I'd like to ask the Secretary, is the SMW adjustment mechanism too modest? When will the next review be conducted? Secretary, as I said at the start of my main reply, there were years of extensive discussions before a consensus was reached between employers and employees. This is exactly how we came up with the adjustment in the statutory minimum wage regime. We need to forestall excessively low wages, but at the same time, we need to take into account Hong Kong's economic growth as well as the competitiveness of Hong Kong. We don't want to see the loss of low-paid jobs. That's why a good and delicate balance has been struck. Starting from 2011, we started with a biennial review, and now we have changed the frequency of reviews to once a year. We continuously improve our mechanism. The SMW was reviewed once every 2 years. Now, it is being reviewed once a year. This is definitely good news. We ensure that the SMW will only increase but not decrease, or at most it will only stay the same. Under the existing regime, the SMW will not go down. This provides safeguard for grassroots employees. Mr. Hong come in. Thank you, President. When I exchanged views with the sector, they said that manpower costs and rentals make up the most significant portion of their business costs. Manpower costs are on the rise, but then still they lack employees. That's why we need to rely on the silver hair employees. They make up a significant portion. But I'd like to turn to MPF contributions. I'd like to know whether there will be relaxation regarding the MPF contributions for older employees. Secretary, I believe Mr. Hong didn't mean the SMW regime has led to a lack of imbalance in the job market. SMW can help grassroots employees. And next, about the supply and demand of laborers in Hong Kong or workers in Hong Kong. This has an impact on the situation in Hong Kong, including population aging and the aging of the local working population. This has an impact on the local labor participation rate. For the silver-haired in Hong Kong, they are still in good shape. They can still take up jobs to boost the local economy. We promote the silver hair economy, and we also have different employees or employment scheme targeting different age brackets, and we also have the good employee charter. Regarding MPF, that is another policy objective, and I cannot see how MPF contribution will affect the motivation of employees to engage workers.
Question 5, Mr. Lee Chun-keung. It is reported that ongoing tensions in the Middle East have led to a rise in international oil prices, bringing heavy operational pressure on Hong Kong sea, land, and air transport, passenger services, and logistics trades. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it has compiled statistics on the current respective quantities of LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, and LNG, liquefied natural gas held in storage in Hong Kong? If so, of the details, and how long could such reserves sustain local consumption? If not, whether it will compile such statistics as soon as possible. 2, whether Hong Kong has established a strategic energy reserve? If so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. And 3, of the measures in place to assist the local sea, land, and air transport, passenger services, and logistics trades in coping with the impact of the recent rise in international oil prices and to ensure an adequate long-term supply of critical commodities such as energy. Secretary for Environment and Ecology. President.
Stable energy supply is critical to Hong Kong's economic and social operations, public transportation, air passenger and cargo services, and electricity supply, etc., are directly related to energy supply. The situation in the Middle East is affecting global oil supply, with the impact on Asia being particularly pronounced. The top priority of the government is to ensure the stability of Hong Kong's energy supply. Hong Kong has no local energy resources. Apart from a small amount of renewable energy, Hong Kong must rely on imported fuels. These include direct imports such as oil products and those processed in Hong Kong after importation such as electricity and town gas. Currently, around 80% of Hong Kong's oil products came from the Chinese mainland. Hong Kong has weathered several global energy crises in the past, including those triggered by the Gulf War and the Ukrainian conflict, which remain fresh in the minds of many. With the advantage of enjoying strong support from our country, Hong Kong has been able to maintain a stable energy supply amid the emergence of energy shortage in many regions and cities around the world. In view of this latest situation in the Middle East, the EEB met with local major auto fuel suppliers last week to reiterate the importance of energy for Hong Kong's economic and social operations. The Bureau has urged the suppliers to ensure a stable supply of local auto fuel. All the suppliers have indicated that the supply of local auto fuel is normal and that they will continue to strive to maintain a stable supply. The EEB also confirmed with the two power companies and the Hong Kong and China Gas Company Limited, the town gas company, that fuel supplies for electricity and town gas production remain normal. Given the challenges posed to global energy supplies by the current tensions in the Middle East, which are affecting every corner of the world and every sector of the economy, we must all remain vigilant and work together to address the situation. The government will continue to closely monitor the geopolitical developments and the local fuel supply situation to ensure the stability of Hong Kong's energy supply. In response to the question raised by Mr. Lee Chun-keung in consultation with the Transport and Logistics Bureau, our reply is as follows. 1 and 2. As mentioned above, Hong Kong mainly relies on imported fuel, with around 80% of the oil products coming from the Chinese mainland. Leveraging the advantage of having our country's staunch support, the government has confirmed with all major energy companies in Hong Kong that Hong Kong's energy supply remains stable at present. Natural gas is primarily used for electricity generation and town gas production in Hong Kong. There are 6 subsea natural gas pipelines in Hong Kong, including those connecting to the Chinese mainland, to 2 power companies and a town gas company, as well as those connecting to Hong Kong offshore LNG terminal to the power stations of the 2 power companies. The floating storage and regasification unit FSRU vessel berthed at the terminal is currently the largest facility of its kind in the world. Currently, the natural gas supply in Hong Kong remains stable. In the event that the supply of LNG by sea is disrupted by the situation in the Middle East, the 2 power companies have already formulated contingency plans to adjust their fuel mix as necessary, including pipeline, natural gas, nuclear power, and coal, to maintain stable electricity generation. As for town gas supply, the town gas company also indicated that if the supply of natural gas is disrupted, they can maintain supply by adjusting the fuel blend ratio to use more naphtha for town gas production. In terms of LPG, the majority of Hong Kong's LPG is used as transport fuel, mainly for taxis and minibuses. Currently, LPG supplies are mainly sourced from neighboring cities in the Greater Bay Area, including Zhuhai, Dongguan, and Shenzhen, with suppliers arranging for LPG tankers to transport the fuel from Chinese mainland to Hong Kong. The LPG suppliers have also indicated that supplies remain normal at present. 3. The government is very concerned about the impact of rising international oil prices on Hong Kong's transport and freight industries. In respect of public transport services, the Transport Department has been maintaining close communication with different public transport operators in view of the recent hike of international oil prices, including franchise buses, public light buses, taxis, and ferries, to understand how their operations are impacted. Given the uncertainty of the future trend of oil prices, the TLB and Transport Department will continue to closely monitor the development to ensure that the operation of public transport services remain normal. The government will also maintain close contact with the land freight transport sector. On the aviation side, several local and non-local airlines have at different times adjusted airfares or raised their fuel surcharges in response to the elevated aviation fuel prices. The TLB is paying close attention to the development and has already met with local airlines to express its concerns regarding the magnitude of cargo fuel surcharge increases and emphasize the importance of maintaining the competitiveness of the Hong Kong International Airport. We have also requested that the airlines strengthen communication with the freight industries and arrange relevant stakeholders to allow airlines to explain to the trade the basis and rationale for setting cargo fuel surcharge levels to enhance transparency. The government will closely monitor airlines' adjustments to cargo fuel surcharges to ensure that the process is reasonable and transparent. On the maritime front, sustained elevation of global oil prices will put pressure on the operating costs of the maritime industry. Hong Kong, as a free port, has long enjoyed advantages including swift customs clearance, high efficiency, and strong international connectivity. With congestion at other ports, the Hong Kong port can play an active role in cargo diversion. The government will maintain communication with the industry to ensure the smooth operation of the Hong Kong port and maintain its international competitiveness. The energy supply in Hong Kong remains stable. The government will remain vigilant and closely monitor the geopolitical developments, international energy price trends, and the local fuel supply situation to ensure the stability of Hong Kong's energy supply. Taking into account that around 80% of all products in Hong Kong came from mainland China, the EEB will continue to liaise with relevant mainland China authorities to support the stable supply of major fuel products to Hong Kong. Mr. Lee Chun-keung. Thank you, President and Secretary. The oil prices in Hong Kong is high in the region. Per liter, it would be approximately $31 per day. It is double the prices in Japan, Singapore, Indonesia, etc. And I note that in Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia, the government has adopted some measures to provide direct or indirect subsidies to cargo owners. Or car owners in Indonesia, they provided an allowance, and in Malaysia, they have put in subsidies to maintain oil prices. So I want to ask if the government will adopt similar practices to support the freight industries so as to alleviate their burden. Secretary. Whether the sectors have particular concerns, I will perhaps ask the Undersecretary for Transport and Logistics to give supplementary information. We have been looking at websites tracking oil prices before there were tensions in the Middle East until the early March. Hong Kong and the 12 major economies in the vicinity, including mainland China, US, UK, Singapore, Australia, and other economies, diesel and oil prices rank 9th and 10th in 12 economies. So compared to other places, our increase is relatively mild and we're able to maintain stability of prices. This is relevant to the efforts we have implemented in the past. We will continue to track price changes to see if we need to implement other measures. Thank you. Anything to add from the Undersecretary for Transport and Logistics? President, as said in the main reply, we have been paying close attention to what the increase in oil prices does to the transport and freight sectors. In terms of public transport services, we have been liaising with operators to find out more about the challenge they face, including the franchise bus and public light bus and taxi trades, as well as the ferries trades. We will continue to maintain contact with them. If necessary, we'll see what we can do to meet their needs. We also maintain liaison with the land freight trade. If necessary, we can provide support to them. Please provide direct answers to members' questions. All right, Dr. Junius Ho. Thank you, President. I think this issue is plaguing not only Hong Kong, but also different parts of the world. We actually have really high prices even in the world. We have high costs and we have taxes that are relatively high. So our oil is much more expensive than others. From February last year, we had a price at $24, not even the fuel power kind. And now we have reached $31 to $32. So in 1 year and 1 month, we have a 33% increase. Secretary, you said 80% of our oil comes from mainland China. So I don't understand. They are selling the oil at $8 per liter. We are selling $31 per liter. You already said your question. My question actually is, can you lower the taxes? You have already asked your question, Dr. Junius Ho, Secretary. I understand Dr. Junius Ho's question is if we can lower the taxes for fuel. We consulted the FSTB on this. The government will closely monitor the situation of tensions in the Middle East and its impact on the economy. And as you may know, for commercial trucks, they make use of Euro Phase 5 diesel. From 2008 onwards, there is no need to be taxed. And LPG used by taxis and minibuses are not taxed. And we have private car fuel being $6.6 per liter. So it has a specified tax rate. It is not an ad valorem tax. The government will continue to pay close attention to the situation to consider any other potential adjustments. Dr. Chan Han Pan. Thank you, President. We are great that we have the support of the country so that we have a stable oil supply, but this issue is close to the hearts of many. There have been many discussions in society, but there is still no way for oil companies to really enhance transparency about their operations in the sense that how they are increasing their charges. I do understand it is hard for the government to ask the oil companies to enhance transparency. So I want to ask the administration for the tendering of petrol stations or gas filling stations. When they submit bids for tender, they have very low premiums to be paid, and they need to submit to the government for consideration their formula for increasing oil prices. Can we make it public? You already asked your question. Will you consider this approach? That's my question. Thank you, Secretary. All right. For Hong Kong's oil prices, we do understand there is much concern whether there is collusion between oil companies to set prices. And the Competition Commission actually conducted an investigation and it has not found evidence of such collusion. I believe the Competition Commission will continue to follow on this issue. As for what the member asked about whether we can change the approach of tendering for gas stations, seeing the changes in oil prices, we can consider this. We need to weigh up the pros and cons, so we will explore this further. Thank you. Mr. Rock Chen. Hong Kong right now has 28 hydrogen pilot projects. I want to ask if the government will consider or plan for the expansion of scope of subsidies to expedite relevant standard setting and rule setting to encourage the use of green energy. President, the question is about the impact caused by tensions in the Middle East on fuel and energy supply. I thank, however, Mr. Chan for asking the question. For hydrogen energy, if we face an impact in energy supply. Making good use of green energy is indeed a solution, but hydrogen energy is still quite expensive at this stage. It may not be the most viable option, but if we can make good use of green electricity and if we try to save energy as much as possible, it will really help us tide over the difficulties of the energy shock. And you can see we have been actively promoting the use of electricity vehicles and introduce green electricity. In future, this should help us survive energy crisis. We'll be more resilient. But right now, hydrogen energy is probably not the best solution. Mr. Tommy Chung. Thank you, President. Between 2012 and 2014, in Brent crude prices are $120 per cart. And we have oil prices between 2012 and 2026 increased by threefold. Since we are importing 80% of our oil products from the mainland, we do see still a gap between mainland and Hong Kong oil prices. Does the government have in mind what the price setting mechanism for oil suppliers, and do we will have price control measures in future? Secretary, whether there is collusion in price setting for oil companies, as I said earlier, the Competition Commission under the CEDB has conducted an investigation, and during the investigation, it has not found any evidence of such, and they do see oil prices being maintained at the same level, and the high oil prices of Hong Kong do not necessarily point to the fact that there is anti-competition conduct. And we have imported oil in Hong Kong. We do not have crude oil. And with crude oil supply, the prices are more or less similar. So the oil suppliers in Hong Kong increase or decrease prices at the same time, probably because they have purchased from the same source. But then I understand the concern. The government is paying close attention, and the Competition Commission is conducting assessments to see if there is collusion in price setting and whether they are hastening or slowing the changes in prices. Thank you. Mr. Jimmy, I understand the fuel suppliers would do some hedging. And in response to the situation in the Middle East, countries and regions will be releasing oil from their reserves, and they will also have some short-term reserves such as subsidies or lowering of taxes to maintain oil prices. Now, fuel suppliers act in response to market trends, but can we also purchase some futures of fuel so that we can maintain prices when we have crises? In different countries and cities, they all have different ways to maintain energy supply, and we thankfully have the support of the country in fuel supply. We do make use of a market mechanism, so we have quite a stable fuel supply. We have seen before during energy crises, and the most recent one being 2 or 3 years ago when we had the Ukrainian war. We have seen many places suffering from energy crisis. We still had stable energy supply then, and we did not had much of a price impact. I can see that the current arrangements work well, but as the chief executive said, there's always room for improvement. In future, perhaps we'll adopt different ways to protect us against energy crisis and have a good price control, we will continue to explore different options. Mr. Chan. Thank you, President. Right now, with the oil products, many of them are imported from the Middle East and Singapore. Because we have instability in the international market, our supply chain and oil prices suffer serious fluctuations. The country is a major producer of energy, also a consumer, and it has a mature petroleum supply chain and storage system. If we can have a system where we will have dedicated supply from the country to Hong Kong, that would be ideal. So I want to ask if the government can strive for support from the central authorities to meet the demand of oil products in Hong Kong, and that should help us maintain price stability. Secretary, I thank Mr. Chan for his suggestion. As I said in the main reply, and as I provided answers to other members' questions, 80% of our oil come from the mainland, especially for fuel use in Hong Kong. We have some even used for vessels or exports. We do have a market economy, but our supply comes from the mainland, so this is an advantage. We have a stable supply. As I answered other members, I think there is always room for improvement. So we will explore different options in future to maintain stability of supply as well as in price. Thank you for your suggestion.
項口頭
Last question seeking an oral reply is Ginny MAN. In May last year, the government announced 30 specific measures to be implemented by the Working Group on Promoting Silver Economy, covering 5 major areas, namely boosting silver consumption, developing the silver industry, promoting the quality assurance of silver products, enhancing silver financial and security arrangements, and unleashing silver productivity, with the aim of cultivating the silver economy as a new growth area for Hong Kong. In this connection, will the government inform this Council, 1. Of the current progress of the 30 specific measures, as well as the difficulties encountered in taking forward such measures, whether the government has regularly assessed the effectiveness of these measures, if so, of the details. 2. Whether it has assessed the effectiveness of institutions such as the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation and Cyberport in facilitating the research and development and commercialization of German technology, as well as in promoting the development of the silver industry. And 3. Whether it has studied the specific outcomes achieved in developing the GBA and international silver economy markets for local enterprises through the Silver Summit held in November last year, and measures such as leveraging e-commerce platforms for promotion, if so, of the details. Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. President, the government attaches great importance to the development of the silver economy. The Working Group on Promoting Silver Economy, as announced by the CE in his 2024 policy address, is chaired by the Deputy Chief Secretary for Administration, with the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development as Vice Chairman. The Working Group has formulated proposals in 5 areas. The consolidated reply to Ms. Ginny MAN is as follows. Since its establishment, the Working Group has proactively engaged with the trade and stakeholders and announced in May 2025 30 measures for promoting the silver economy, most of which have achieved positive results. These measures are implemented by different bureaus in conjunction with organizations from various sectors. On boosting silver consumption, the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau, or the CEDB, has been proactively driving the business sector to include silver economy elements in various exhibitions. In particular, the German Tech and Innovation Expo Cum Summit, organized by the Hong Kong Council of Social Service and the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation in November last year, brought together numerous exhibitors from Hong Kong, Chinese mainland, and overseas. It fostered collaboration among the government, businesses, and social welfare organizations, leading to the official promulgation of the Careful Greater Bay Area Standard, thereby enhancing quality assurance and consumer confidence, and directly boosting the competitiveness of the local brands in GBA, as well as other domestic and international markets. Local exhibitors also engaged in exchanges with exhibitors from Chinese mainland and overseas, further promoting the industry's expansion to overseas markets. On e-commerce, the e-commerce platform Hong Kong Design Gallery is collaborating with the Hong Kong CSS to market silver products in physical and online stores, thereby further expanding the sales channels of local businesses in GBA and overseas. The Hong Kong Trade Development Council has also launched the E-commerce Express to enhance assistance to small and medium-sized enterprises, expanding into the mainland market. On developing silver industry, the ITIB is dedicated to enhancing the innovation and technology ecosystem, thereby supporting the development of different technology industries, including drone technology. In particular, there are over 130 companies engaged in solutions and services related to drone technology in HKSTP and Cyberport. The companies employed more than 800 staff members and have raised about $156 million in funding. The Social Welfare Department has also expanded the scope of the Innovation and Technology Fund for Application in Elderly and Rehabilitation Care since March last year. Eligible subvented elderly and rehabilitation service units can procure relevant products, thus helping the business sector explore new opportunities. As at the end of last year, the fund has subsidized about 2,100 elderly and rehabilitation service units to procure or rent over 27,000 technology products. On promoting quality assurance of silver products, with the support of CEDB, the general requirements of easy-to-eat food for older adults was officially included in the list of the GBA standards in September last year. On this basis, the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong launched the Care Food Product Certification Mark scheme, with a view to assisting consumers in making clearer choices. In addition, the Federation of Hong Kong Industries and the Hong Kong Quality Assurance Agency have launched the Hong Kong Q Mark Silver Scheme and the Hong Kong QAA Hong Kong Registration Silver Friendly Series, respectively, to certify drone technology products. Through these schemes, we hope to further promote various silver products to the retail market, bringing better choices to the elderly consumers and helping businesses expand the product sales networks. Initiatives on promoting silver financial and security arrangements are led by the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau. Regarding financial products for the elderly, the total premium of the Hong Kong Mortgage Corporation annuity plan offered by the Hong Kong Mortgage Corporation Limited reached nearly 9 billion Hong Kong dollars last year, representing a year-on-year increase of over 100%. With the encouragement from the Insurance Authority, insurers in Hong Kong have offered savings-oriented insurance products that provide policyholders with the right to access retirement facilities in the mainland. In addition, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, together with the banking industry, has introduced a new e-banking feature that allows customers to deactivate certain high-risk online services and launched the Enhanced Financial Intelligence Evaluation Sharing Tool in the end of last year to strengthen banks' capabilities to detect and prevent fraud and other financial crimes. As regards unleashing silver productivity, the Re-employment Allowance Pilot Scheme launched by the Labour Department has received nearly 69,000 participants and over 40,000 placements were recorded, of which about one quarter involved persons aged 60 or above. The Labour Department is conducting a midterm review of the REA scheme and exploring measures to encourage the employment of the elderly and middle-aged. In addition, the Labour Department held a total of 72 large-scale or district-based thematic job fairs suitable for older and middle-aged persons last year, more than double that of last year. The Labour Department also continues to promote elderly-friendly employment practices through various channels, including the launch of the Good Employer Charter 2026 in January this year, encouraging employee-oriented good human resource management measures and implement family-friendly, including elderly-friendly employment practices. We will continue to collaborate closely with the trade to introduce more initiatives for promoting silver economy, thereby meeting the needs and preferences of the elderly while driving Hong Kong's economic development. We will continue to hear views of the Legislative Council, the trade organizations, and the different stakeholders so as to help the government and the trade in optimizing the measures or formulating future directions. Ms. Ginny MAN. Now, the popularity of drone technology is still low, and also the market scale is small. Investors are hesitant. It is difficult to lower the price and cost through scaling up. Now, with the government make use of community voucher scheme and also healthcare voucher scheme to cover a wider variety of drone technology products to encourage more usage of these products so as to grow the market. Secretary, thank you for your follow-up question. To encourage the use of drone technology products in homes, last year, the Social Welfare Department has expanded the use of the Innovation and Technology Fund for Application in Elderly and Rehabilitation Care to more drone technology products. Eligible organizations and service units may procure the products for the use of elderly people as well as people with disabilities and the carers. for use at home on a trial basis. The applicability scope has been extended from service units to home users. So through that, we can enhance the living standard of elderly people and persons with disabilities, lessen the burden on carers, and also forge new business opportunities for businesses, creating a virtuous cycle. Now, a brief point on the scale of the market. According to rough data collected by the CNSD, in 2024, the total consumption made by elderly people reached $342 billion. In several years' time, the number will grow to $500 billion. So it shows that the market has great potential. Investors, especially those in the retail business, have been investing to transform and upgrade their businesses. For example, in the catering industry, caterers are designing easier to chill and delicious dishes. And also the tourism industry are designing itineraries which are more relaxed with more in-depth elements to cater for the preferences of silver consumers. I believe that the same trend has been noted by the INT industry as well. The stakeholders are now adjusting their business and investment strategies to provide more products and services which are price competitive for the silver market. Thank you. Mr. Robert Lee. Thank you, President. In terms of tapping the international silver market, will the government strengthen the functions of the ETOs and also invest Hong Kong to reach out more to forge more business ties? At the same time, step up publicity to attract more joint technology corporations in the mainland and overseas to set up in Hong Kong. Secretary, thank you for the question. In short, the answer is yes. We'll continue to make use of our international network to attract businesses and investments, including talents and projects and capitals in the field of joint technology. We have the advantages of prestigious financial services and wide international business ties. The industry is seeking to establish a Q-Mark Silver scheme for joint technology products that will also help the effort. And also, we have seen exhibitors and convention organizers adding elements of silver economy in their exhibitions. Now, the Silver Summit held in November last year have gathered together 300 participants. More than 1,000 types of joint technology products and services from Hong Kong and overseas have been exhibited. It shows that the international market has great confidence in Hong Kong's potential as a silver economy market. Of course, through the Bud Fund and also the E-commerce Express and also Hong Kong Design Gallery, we will encourage SMEs to make use of these platforms to tap more markets. And through different support schemes, we will help the SMEs enhance the competitiveness of their brands. We continue to listen to views from the electrical and also the industry to forge a better business environment for the players. Mr. Albert Chuang. Thank you, President. The Secretary mentioned the BUD Bud Fund. So in supporting the silver economy, will the government review the use of Bud Fund to ensure that the application eligibility will cover joint technology products and also silver products to enhance the incentives for the market? Secretary, thank you for the question. As I've mentioned, the intent of the Bud Fund is to help different industries to tap new industries and new areas, especially those economies with which we have CDTA with. So we encourage different SMEs, including those involved in the silver market, to identify items under the Bud Fund to help them expand their business. So under e-commerce express, we encourage these players to participate in more exhibitions and conventions to tap more markets, including silver market. Ms. Vivian Kong. Thank you, President. Now, the government has been implementing the 30 measures on promoting silver economy, and also we are reviving the tourism sector. The tourism sector would also like to help the government to implement the idea of tourism is everywhere. So will the government consider integrating the promotion of silver economy together with the developments in tourism sector, enhancing cross-departmental collaboration so as to provide more tourism products to silver consumers in Hong Kong and the Bay Area and attract more silver tourists to come to Hong Kong? Secretary. Thank you, President, and thank you, Member, for your question. As mentioned in my reply to the follow-up question raised by Ms. Ginny MAN, Hong Kong's silver market's potential is huge. In 2024, the consumption amounted to $324 billion, and in 5 years' time, it will grow to $500 billion. According to our survey, the top 3 categories of consumption of silver consumers are retail, catering, and leisure and entertainment. It shows that our silver consumers are pursuing higher quality services and richer experience in life. So we welcome the tourism sector to develop more attractive itineraries for silver consumers. As I've mentioned, there are more slow-paced and in-depth itineraries for silver consumers. So the relevant bureaus and also the working group on promoting silver economy will encourage the industry to develop more products for silver consumers from more markets. Professor William Wong. Thank you. With the rapid development of AI, the ordinary public is already catching up with the developments. Now, the elderly people, this is a group of disadvantage in terms of digital application. Now, if there is a huge digital gap, it would hinder the growth of the silver economy while affecting the daily life of elderly people. So will the government launch AI ambassador scheme in the community or establish experience center for AI so that care teams and also other organizations can teach the use of AI to elderly people? Secretary. President, according to my knowledge, in Cyberport, the ITIB has been working with its partners to launch an education platform to provide education on the use of AI to different demographies, including elderly people. On consumption, the Consumer Council has also launched its own platform. Earlier on this year, the Consumer Council has launched a new online platform to educate elderly consumers. So we can upload the information concerning AI onto these websites to alert elderly people of the trend. Ms. Ginny MAN. Thank you. Now, the working group's work has been widely recognized by the trade. Now, my suggestion is conducting a large baseline survey to analyze the asset level of elderly people and also their willingness to pay for current technologies for use at home so as to guide the investment. Secretary. Thank you, Ms. Grace Chan. As mentioned in my previous reply, the Consumer Council has conducted a survey last year. That's a survey on the consumption pattern of silver consumers. from the survey, we saw that the consumption pattern and preferences of civic consumers are concentrated in catering, retail, and leisure. So we already have the basic statistics, but we thank Ms. Grace Chan for her suggestion. We will study the idea with the colleagues in CNSD. Thank you. Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, President. At present, joint technology combines the use of AI, robotics, remote monitoring, data science, and so on. However, according to a survey conducted by Lingnan University, 60% of the respondents consider that the prices of these products are too high, and 90% of the respondents hope that the government would subsidize the organizations more. 52% of respondents reflected that they lack information on these products. So can the government tell this council, will it expand the use of the elderly healthcare voucher scheme and also the elderly fund under CCF to extend the scope to joint technology products used at home? Well, will the government make reference to the system in Southeast Asian countries to prevent scams when elderly people purchase joint technology products? I will take the question and then I will defer to my colleagues for supplement. As I've mentioned, the INT Fund for Application in Elderly and Rehabilitation Care under the SWD has extended its scope to joint technology products suitable for use at home since last March. The relevant service units may purchase these products for trial use by the users at home. So we hope that by extending the scope, we can help the elderly people. Thank you for the question. The Community Care Voucher Scheme already offers services to elderly people who have gone through the standardized assessment system. So through wider use of Community Care Voucher Scheme, we hope that more elderly people get to use these products at home. Mr. Ken Wong. Now my question has been asked by Professor William Wong, so I will not repeat my question. That's the end of the question.